Greetings, my little GGs. Vietnamese tonight. So I'm not actually Vietnamese lager, it's just already Spanish Mandarin. But we're going to create a dish that I saw, I think, with Joshua Wiseman, and it's a sort of all semi-fusion Vietnamese Bún Chả Hanoi. So that's what we're going to make, but it just needs quite a bit of prep. So the first thing we need to do is marinate some pork belly. I've got, is it 340 grams? Yeah, 340 grams of skinless pork belly. I'm going to have to slice that up into some chunks, but our marinade, we've got some sugar, tablespoon of granulated sugar, get rid of that. I've got a tablespoon of fish sauce, get rid of that, and then I'm going to want the white part of a spring onion, and I just basically want to finely chop that up. And then you want about 2 cloves of garlic. These are quite small again, so I'm going to have 3. Okay, you could probably put this through the garlic crusher if you wanted, but ultimately this is just the marinade, as it were. He said try and take the end off his thumb. So that's going in there, and in a bit I'm going to whisk all that as such together. There's not much marinade in there, as you can see. Okay, but we'll give that a bit of a mix. It's a bit pointless to use a whisk on that little amount. Okay, and now I'm going to take my pork belly and I want to cut it into 1 inch thick slices. Actually, I've just realised I'm not wanting chunks, I'm just wanting slices like there is already. So they're going to go in there. Okay, and we just want to massage that marinade all over that pork belly. Okay, so we're just getting it all well coated, and then we're just going to cover it and we're going to marinate that. We're then going to, we're going to chill it in the fridge and let it marinate. Okay, and a minimum of 30 minutes, preferably overnight. It's going to be about 30, 60 minutes. So just going to get that covered in the fridge. That's the first sort of initial prep. Then we're going to make some pork meatballs. For the meatballs, we need to marinate those. So I've got some lean pork mince, 340 grams of that. Okay, just put that there for the moment. The marinade, we've got 2 tablespoons of fish sauce, in that goes. We've got a tablespoon of sugar, in that goes. And then you're going to want 1 to 1.5 shallots, stalk lemongrass, we're only using like the bottom third of that, couple of cloves of garlic again, and some Thai basil. Unfortunately, I forgot to get the basil, so I've tried to get a bit out of my immature herb garden, but I ain't got a lot. So all I'm going to do first off is just prep these just prep the shallots, garlic and the lemongrass. Basically, I should use a cleaver for this, mash this a little bit, and then we just want to chop all of this finely and shove it in there. So that's got that all chopped in, that goes in there. And then, just like we did with the previous marinade, he says chucking it everywhere but in there. What we want to do is mix that all together. And then we're going to add want a bit of salt. Trying to organise myself so I know what I'm doing, or rather what goes into what part of this as I go along, so I don't end up putting the wrong things in. Now that's gone in there. We now take that pork mince and in that goes. And now we just want to make sure this is all mixed in together. Might be easy to get my hand in here. And again, that's going to get covered, and that wants to marinate at least 30 minutes, or again, you could do it overnight. We're not doing it overnight because we're eating it tonight. Okay, we're going to have one of the accompaniments is going to be some pickled veg. So the first thing we need to do is make the pickling stuff. So got 25 grams of sugar, in that goes. And then you're going to want 240 mils. Indeed, 240 mils of white vinegar. There we go. That's going in there. And then you want 180 mils of water. In that goes. And I'm just going to put it over there for now because I want to prepare the veg. Now, this is carrot and daikon, which is like a white a white radish. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any. Supermarkets obviously don't have it, but my Asia superstore that we've got in our town, I thought they're bound to have it. Didn't. I thought perhaps they've got it in tins, perhaps they've got it pickled. No, they got it dried. So I'm going to attempt to use some of that. I've been rehydrating it. Don't look very appetising like that, does it? But we're going to use some of that, and if it's not right, we won't eat that bit. But I'm just going to peel these, and then we essentially want to slice it longitudinally and make some half moons. We now just want to get this all dissolved. It looks like most of it has. So there you go. There's your carrot, and essentially, if you had the proper daikon, you would have cut that into a similar shape. What we want to do now is bring it to the boil, okay, if need be, stir it to get everything dissolved, and then, now his recipe says, oh, got a bit of lemongrass down there, what's that doing down there? His recipe says is put these in a heat-proof dish and then pour the pickling liquid over it. But I'm just going to chuck it all in there. Don't see the point of making extra washing up. Well actually, I might do it in the bowl. I'm just thinking, we've got to make sure it's all properly submerged. So I'm just going to transfer them into there. We're going to bring that to the boil, make sure everything's dissolved. So that's now boiling, and so we're just going to pour that pickling liquid over it. Should have got a little bit more than I need. Let me just put that there for a second. And now I'm just going to get some cling wrap. Now he says you could use kitchen towel if you'd like. Essentially with the cling wrap we're going to want to, don't you dare you little shit, just push it down, try not to burn yourself. We want to make sure that everything stays nice and submerged. Now we also want to put that somewhere. Let me put that in there for a minute to cool down, and then, and I should have perhaps done this earlier, once it's cooled down, shove it in the fridge to let it chill for when we're ready to serve it. So we're going to make some spring rolls, some Chả Giò or something like that, Vietnamese egg roll. So these spring rolls you're going to want, I'm using chestnut mushrooms. If you can find some woodier ones, use them, 3 of them. I've got 110 grams of pork mince. I've got, excuse me, 120 grams of shrimp. Okay. 30 grams of rehydrated vermicelli rice noodles. You want about half a carrot. You want the white part of 1 spring onion. You're going to want an egg. I think that's it at the minute. Some salt. So you're going to need a mixing bowl. So the mushrooms, the well, essentially everything except the mince, because it's already been minced up, is going to need chopping up. So we're going to finely julienne that. That we're going to finely chop. The mushrooms we're going to finely chop. The prawns we're going to finely chop. And as we do it, it's going in a mixing bowl. Can't put it on that one because that one's hot. Okay, so let's get finely chopped. I think some weird things have been happening, and I think I've been thinking I've been recording and it's not been recording. So just in case, I've pre-cooked the spring roll mixture, okay, and that is now sitting there just cooling off a little bit. And in the meantime, I shaped the meatballs, 57 grams per meatball. Now I reduced down the quantities, and I'm doing this for 3 people, so I'd worked out that this would create 6 meatballs. It actually creates 7 and just over half. Okay, but that's all right. Okay, so there, well actually, I'm just about to put them in the fridge. Just keep them chilled until we're ready to cook them. But we're now going to start assembling these spring rolls. So I'm going to make 6 spring rolls. Okay, so first thing I need to do is take one of the wrappers, and I've got a plate here with some water in it. And I just want to just submerge that, and then try not to leave it in there too long, and bring that out. And then I've tried to sort of portion this into 6, and we're now just going to lay that down near the bottom. And now I'm just going to pick the bottom up and roll it over, and then it's trying to escape from the sides. We're just going to bring in the sides, okay, fold it over, and then continue rolling it till we've got a nice little packaged spring roll. An automatic seal step, don't put it on the plate, you silly bastard. So it's just a matter now of going through and making 6 of them. Right, we're getting to cooking time now. So in a large saucepan, I've got 50 grams of sugar. I've got 60 mils of fish sauce. Okay. And then I want some of my distilled vinegar in it, my white vinegar again. I want about 1.5 tablespoons of that. I'll do that one by the way. And then 500 mils of pork broth. Now if you haven't got pork broth, you can just use water. Okay, in that goes. Now we now just want to get this hot. Okay, and then we'll put it to one side, keeping it warm. We don't want it boiling. Effectively, this is going to go in our bowls to cover other things. So as soon as that has come up to a boil, I'm going to put it to one side, and we're going to cook our meatballs, or our pork and our pork belly, and we're also going to do them spring rolls. And like I say, we're going to do them in the air fryer. My broth is now at the back there, just keeping warm. I'm now going to, the pork belly and your meatballs you can do on a grill, but I'm not faffing around like that. So instead, we're going to take those pork belly and we're going to put them into this pan, okay, and we want to cook these okay. Now we've got remainder of that in there, we don't want that. Can I just say, I preheated my air fryer to 200, and then we're going to cook these at 190 in a minute. But first off, I want to get these going, and then we're going to cook our meatballs. Now essentially, we're going to have like a ramen bowl. We're going to have some of the cooked pork belly in it. We're going to have some cooked meatballs in it. We're going to put some vermicelli noodles in it, so a couple of 100 grams of those. I'm just rehydrating those, and then is that actually on? Oh, might have tried to got it hot first, and then I could have heard it. No, I can just hear it now. And then I had to nick one of the white beers because I've run out. And then we're just going to have some pickled vegetables that we did earlier on top, and we're going to have a sort of saladish thing. Some lettuce, some coriander, some finely chopped chilies. You could add some more garlic, finely chopped garlic. I'm not going to bother with that. Some more Thai basil as part of that little salad. And if you can find them, which no I could not, perilla leaves. About half a bunch of them. Can't find that. So my first 3 spring rolls in the oven, air fryer. Like I said, I think 190, and I'm giving them 5 minutes, and then I'm going to turn them. Okay, I'll give them a good spray all over with some oil. I should have been a bit more careful because some of them were touching. And of course the rice paper stack, I didn't mention either, I didn't put any oil or fat in the pan, because obviously these pork bellies are already quite fatty. That's annoying me. So we essentially want to sort of crispen up the outside if we can do. Okay, so I'm keeping my eye on that. So I've still got them to cook, still got the remaining ones of them to cook. So I've washed, so I let one head of lead, small like little gem, chop that up in segments, rinsed it, put in the coriander with it, just a bunch of coriander, give that a rinse. That's all going to go in the spinner, and we're just going to give that a spin and dry it. And I've just got to chop my chilli. I'll have to drain my vermicelli in a bit. So we're starting to get there now, eventually. Right, so the pork belly's sort of done. I've just turned it on its side because I want to try and crispen up the what's name, the outside, the fatty bit. So with these meatballs, I'm just flattening them slightly, okay, and they're going in the same pan. Again, if you want to do it on the grill, you can do it on the grill. Oops. I'm not adding any extra fat, remember. I've not done spring rolls in the air fryer before, but I'm finding I'm having to give them a little bit longer than I expected, but that's fine. Okay, so now we just want to make sure them meatballs are cooked through, and then we can start assembling. Then when I've got a bit of room, we can start assembling. So in each bowl, I've already put some of that, half that vermicelli, and then we're just going to lay the pork belly in there. I've put the mixed sort of salad as such on the side. I've still got to have my chilies. Okay, so in they go. So when I get spring rolls, they will just go on the side. Okay, they're not going in the broth mixture, as it were. So I've still got those three to cook. We've got to cook them. We're almost there. So I took the first batch out, put them on paper towel just to, there wasn't an awful lot of oil on them, but obviously we didn't want them dripping in it. So I've just dried them off, they're on there. The meatballs, a bit like the pork belly, but perhaps more so, caramelising a lot easier. But remember there's sugar in all this. So they're almost there. The last batch is in there. Just got to chop them chilies, add them a little bit. Well, actually, I might do that now. So all we do with the chilies is we're just finely chopping them and sprinkling them over that salad. Okay. You could say it's optional if you want. You know, you don't necessarily have to have that on there. Entirely up to you. But that's a sort of final little touch, if you like. That's on there, a little bit more on there, just put that on there, oops, not down there. So that now is almost there. Once we want to make sure obviously the pork meatballs are cooked all the way through. Right, the meatballs are just about done. So at this point what we're going to do, so I'm just going to turn that heat off, and then we just place equal amount in each bowl. Okay. Now I'm just going to warm that broth back up a bit. So I'm just going to heat that broth back up a little bit. We're still waiting on them spring rolls. Okay. Got the dishwasher on. We've still got a load of fucking mess. So, like I say, we don't want this boiling, but it has been stood a little while. So I'm just going to gently warm that up. But you can see I'm starting to plate it, and then of course, obviously, we've got our pickled vegetables, but they go on after we've got our broth in. That's the spring rolls done. Ooh. What we do now is we just want to, it says ladle it over it, we just want to share that broth over the top, okay, of the meatballs, the vermicelli and so on. And that then is almost there. Oh, hang on, I need that spoon. So all we do to finish off, we take some of them pickled vegetables and we just sprinkle some of them on top. And there, a little bit spare. Let me just move that to the back there. There is our finished Bún Chả Hanoi. Okay. Actually, I'm just going to put this one back. This one's the wife's one. Let me have this one here and let's have a little taster. Okay, so this spring roll was a little, oh, I forgot to put that actually on the paper. A little bit of a disaster. Actually, let's just try, I don't know how well pickled these have been. Oh, I mean the carrots are hard, but I've definitely picked up the pickling. You've got a nice tang there. Where's the pork meatball? That's nicely cooked. Pork belly can be a little bit hard to eat like this, so I might taste that in a bit. There's lots of flavour in them meatballs. Some of it is the caramelisation from the cooking. Some of it is you can taste the other bits in it, as it were. So let's see what that spring roll is like. So it's nice and crispy on the outside. This is one that was stuck to one of the others and then ended up bursting open when I tried to put it in there. What's that? Nice crispy outside, but I do have to say, don't think there's so much flavour in them as there is in that. Glass sitting down sweaty. So, a lot of faff. If you're practised, it should only take about an hour. Not including the marinating times, obviously. That's taken me about 3 hours. But it's worth it. Give it a go.